Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
When we pray with consistency, we become that light. But light doesn't always look the way we think it's going to look. I love a story by a guy named Maximos. He grew up in Cyprus. And when he was a kid, he would see these monks moving around once in a while, and they had these black cassocks on, so he would wear a black cassock because he was, I'm going to be a monk. So he got his degree, went to college, got his degree, but as soon as he got his degree, he went right to Mount Athos to become a monk. And he said when he got there, he was just terrified because he said there was an all-night vigil, and he said it's just all these guys, and it was totally silent. There was no light. There was one candle. It was just total darkness. And he said, oh my gosh, there is no life in here. What have I done? How am I going to survive this? And as he's having these thoughts, this monk who was standing in front of an icon of Mary walks over to him and said, oh no, the people in here are very much alive. It's the people out in the world who are dead. And just totally stunned, like, I don't know this person. How did he know what was going inside of my head? And that opened his eyes to start seeing with a little bit beyond just the physical eyes of dark and light, which is duality. And this is what prayer does for us. It opens us up to see things that we don't normally see if we are praying from love. And that's why we had the reading today, because it's love that brings us alive. We talk a lot, not just us. I see it all the time now, everywhere, how powerful our thoughts are. And our thoughts are extremely powerful. So if I were to say, let's focus on brown for a second, and then open your eyes, and you're going to see so much brown, which is easy to do in this room. And then if you close your eyes and say, now focus on green, and then you open your eyes, and suddenly you're going to start noticing all these, like I just noticed that exit sign, never noticed it really before. The moment we focus our thoughts on something, it directs our attention, and that's an incredibly powerful tool, is to know that our thoughts direct our attention. Our hearts are more powerful than even that. So our thoughts are here to serve our hearts, and this is how we know. Everyone here knows. And the way you know is because just remember those times when you have fallen completely in love. You're a little bit wacko, first of all. Even if you haven't been in love for a while, have you been around someone who's in love? I mean, they're just like, they're flying high. All the things that used to bother them, they looked at each other. Edith and Lindsay, that little happy married couple. So, that feeling of love, all the things that used to bother us don't bother us as much anymore, right? We just suddenly, our hearts are wide open. It's hard sometimes to focus. Like we're supposed to focus our thoughts. I can't focus my thoughts. I'm just like, everything is beautiful. Everything is wonderful, right? That's what being in love is like. And so to have a living prayer, it's not just about our thoughts. So what you learn is the energy starts to maybe wane a little bit over time. The thoughts serve the heart. And so our prayers serve our heart. But the prayers have to become living prayers, to become the prayers of power, of spirit. They come from love. So when we pray, we actually connect. We often say we drop down into our heart because we want to connect with that loving energy and open our heart to whatever words are coming forth. So we've been going over the Lord's Prayer, which is in the gospel. You may have no connection to that prayer, or you may have some connection to it. I have gotten some feedback, people, which I totally get. Rote prayer, it feels like you just say the same thing over. It's not living. It's you're just saying the same words over and over. No prayer is living if we're not present in the moment to what the words are being spoken. So I know from being a journal writer, I've gone back and read my journals. Most of them are really boring because I just keep saying the same stuff over and over and over again. I'm free thinking. No one's telling me what to think, but we all are habit patterns of thought. We're all habit patterns even of our heart. And so the heart is about being present to something that is greater than our normal habit patterns. And so how do we do that with a prayer that's written or that has the same thing? we find the energy behind the words. And so no one has to do a prayer by rote. The only thing I would say is, just like in my 40 years of journaling, I've tried every different ways of journaling, and I love them all. Many of you are meditators. There's so many different ways to meditate, and some of us have integrated these different paths. The same thing is with prayer. There's so many different forms of prayer, and so this is just one way of looking at it. It's over after today, so if you've been suffering, I'm sorry. But the intention is just to say, here's another way of praying, and to open our heart to it to become living prayer. So does that make sense to you? Yeah. And so the Lord's Prayer, for those of you who don't know, it's in the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke. And so so you may never have grown up in that tradition, or maybe you have resistance to your own experience in that tradition. So we're looking at what the actual intention of the prayer is, and if you were creating your own prayer, what would you create? So I do have my own version. I just one day decided I wanted to say the Lord's Prayer every day. I tried it, and the wording didn't totally work. So I just, made it fit to the way I wanted it to fit. But I've also created my own prayers, and it's in my calendar. That's how I thought of it. 7 years ago, I created another little prayer for myself. No template, just something I wanted to pray, and I've been praying it every day for 7 years. For me, there's something really powerful about repetition. Shunryu Suzuki talks a lot about that too, just the power of because we really do repetition whether we're conscious of it or not. So to be consciously repeating these words, for me, every time I return to these prayers, it's like this, it aligns my soul. I feel so aligned. It's something I can't even speak to. And I know some of you know just that when you say these words, the words themselves become living. They become this power, this energy inside of me. And I talk away to God. I'm a freestyler, and I do prayer treatments, the 5-step prayer treatments. I do it all. And I know, and I'm just inviting us all just to stay open to the power of all types of prayers, and the power that repeating the same words, if they come from our heart. If they don't come from our heart, it is just vain repetition of prayers, and it has no meaning. We can do that with prayer treatments, one power, one presence, in, through, and as be. Anything can be repetitive. The only thing that brings it alive is when we connect it with our heart. So whatever prayer you're doing, if you're praying right now, you're connecting with your heart. Everyone here is already the fullness of love. Nothing's going to happen in the future that's going to make love any more present in your heart than it is right in this moment. So the only difference is are we connecting with that love as much as we possibly can throughout the day? And all these different spiritual practices are just tools to help us connect with our heart in whatever way that works for you. And that might be one way, and that might be multiple ways. So for those of you who haven't been here, we've been going through the Lord's Prayer, and we're going to finish it today. And we're going through, last week we talked about what the kingdom is, the kingdom of God, which is, and I use the word God because that's in the traditional language, whatever word you want to use for God, universe, Brahma, life itself, Allah, whatever word that resonates with your soul. But we call it good, that this presence and this power is absolute good. It's absolute love. It's absolute peace. There's no duality in the highest realm. There's no duality. And so therefore that will always is love. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, but if you're saying it for yourself, in me as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. We did that all last week. So today we're talking about, I think the heart, for me anyways, the part that's had the biggest impression, which is forgiveness. Now, for those of us who've been in New Thought for a while, I've heard a lot there's nothing for God to forgive because God only sees in wholeness. In order to forgive, you have to actually see separation. You have to see here's the good part of them and here's the bad part of them, and I'm going to forgive the bad part of them. And the divine, which is always whole, perfect, and complete, which lives from this wholeness, doesn't see in part. So what is it that this presence can look at us and say, I need to forgive you? It can't do that. It is all love. But this is why I love this prayer, because this prayer includes the entire experience of the absolute transcendent, but also the relative. And it's always dancing this play between the absolute and the relative, and it's giving all of it a sense of value and importance. So yes, in the absolute sense, we are all whole, perfect, and complete, but until we are actually living in that state all the time, in the perfection of our being, and never have any form of relatively impose itself into this absolute being, we have forgiveness to remind us, the forgiveness is to remind us who we really are, that we're always loved. And as long as we're in this relative world, we can have things that help us forget that we're forgiven, that or help us forget. And so we want to be forgiven. Forgiven is just, to me, a soft place to come to. Forgiveness is a place, when people say, I don't need to be forgiven because I'm never, in God, I'm already perfect, I actually experience that as kind of a hardness. It's like I'm already perfect, I don't need forgiveness. For me, the saying, oh, but I'm still human, and I still, every day, I do things that I wish I had done better. And just by opening to that willingness to receive the divine love's forgiveness softens me, softens my heart, opens me up, makes me more available to this presence and this power. So the question to ask yourself in any type of prayer, and especially in this idea of forgiveness, how do you feel about forgiveness? Do you feel like, I didn't mean to put it down, if you don't feel like you're all whole, perfect, and complete, and you're comfortable with that, that's awesome, because there is a power in that. And if you do look at, well, I do like to be forgiven sometimes, and if you do like to be forgiven sometimes, what do you like to be forgiven for? And then, as you know, or maybe you don't know, so in the prayer it says, forgive us our debts. That was one version, and the other version is forgive us our trespasses. And then the second part, and we forgive, as we forgive our debtors, or we forgive those who trespass against us. So even as we're forgiven, we forgive others. I found this to be so powerful. Well, first of all, let me just say, when I rewrote this was the area that I worked on the most. I kept came up with the words, no, that doesn't work. I would do it for several months. I'm like, no, this is not good. So I couldn't figure out the words for me. And they're still imperfect, but I finally just landed, like, to hear the words that I would use for myself. So it's an interesting question to ask yourself, like, how would I put that? How would I put what I want to be forgiven for and what I want to forgive others for? What would that look like for me? I have noticed in doing this prayer regularly, this is the part that shows up for me throughout the day. Oh, that's right. I'm accepting forgiveness for this. I have to be forgiving other people, or otherwise I'm forgiving other people. I have to remember I'm also forgiven for this. Like, it just comes up for me in a really gentle and loving way throughout the day. And that's the power of, again, of repetition, that when things start happening in the world, I have this thing to go back to, this base, this foundation that I can remind myself. So we've been looking at different prayers. So I want to give you some ideas that other folks who spend a lot more time on the Lord's Prayer than I have in my life, what they have come up with. Emma Curtis Hawkins, who is considered the teacher of teachers in New Thought. She was born in 1849 and transitioned to the other side of the veil in 1925. And they call her the teacher of teachers because she taught a lot of these principles to many of New Thought, people who then became New Thought leaders in their own right, like the Fillmores, who started Unity, Ernest Holmes, Divine Science. So she taught a lot of people. So for forgiveness, she said, forgive my lack of confidence to command the law. So one of the teachings in New Thought is this idea of cause and effect. And so what she means by command the law is this, in this law of cause and effect, is instead of putting our attention on effect, we're putting our attention on cause. And when we come from cause, then there's an energy that cause creates the effect. So the law is the thing that creates the effect. It's the law of cause and effect. So when she says to command the law from cause, so what she really means is forgive me when I forget to come from cause, and the power that I declare, command, to create a different effect out in the world. So that's how, for Emma Curtis Hawkins, that was the forgiveness that opened up her heart. For Nadia Bowles-Weber, she has a lot of long things, so I just picked out a few of my statements that I enjoyed. Forgive us when we hate what you love. I love that. Forgive us when we hate what you love. Forgive us for the terrible things we think about our own bodies that you have made in your image. And please forgive us for thinking we know the hearts of our enemies. Yeah. But what I love is the diversity. So I hope you have this inquiry and you're like, what are the words? I mean, I really spent a long time in this because it's really, when you start working on it, it's really interesting. It tells you a lot about yourself. Mine is very simple, whatever. So whatever works for you and whatever works for your heart. And then we've been doing Neil Donald-Klotz, who does an Aramaic translation. And the one we've been using, I didn't realize was his much longer version, but he has just a basic skeletal version, and I actually like it better. So we're going to that one now. So his version of forgive is, untangle the knots within so that we can mend our hearts' simple ties to each other. Untangle the knots within so that we can mend our hearts' simple ties to each other. Isn't that beautiful? Untangle the knots. So even if the language of forgiveness might feel uncomfortable or doesn't connect with you, finding these words. I want to remind you too that when we started the series, I gave the example of a friend who was atheist, but completely counter to the rest of their life. They ended up in jail for a night, and the first thing they did was go to the Lord's Prayer because they learned it when they were a kid. It was a rock for them to go to because they didn't have the mind to be able to go to anywhere else or come up with their own prayer or to even speak for. So they went to something that held them. So these prayers can hold us, but what are the words that we have that hold us? So the next part of the prayers is I feel so embarrassed because I just figured this out today and I've never realized it before. The next part of the prayer is, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And there's different versions, deliver us from evil or deliver us from the evil one. And it just dawned on me as I was saying these two statements together, forgive us and deliver us from evil. I'm like, oh, that's right. When Jesus walked this earth, that was his teaching. Like, you are forgiven and sin no more. Oh, he put it right there in the Lord's Prayer. You are forgiven and don't go back into temptation. Sin no more. And I'm like, oh, I never made that connection before between what's in the Lord's Prayer and his teaching. So the idea is we're forgiven and to lead us not into temptation. Temptation is delivering us from this idea of separation. So for in our teaching, evil is separation. And separation means that we think there's two powers, that we think there's a good power and a bad power. We're always comparing. Everything is relative. So everything we experience in this human world is relative. There's high, there's low, there's good, there's bad, there's dark, there's light, there's old, there's young, there's healthy, there's not healthy. Everything is dualistic. And so what the temptation is to believe in that world. The temptation is to believe that that world is real, and what Jesus and all the spiritual mystics are teaching and embodying. They don't just teach it with their mind, but they teach it with their very existence, is that there's a greater transcendent reality that is beyond all duality, that is infinite good, that is infinite love, where there is no opposite. There isn't the opposite. Like every time you say hate, love, hate. There's no hate. There's no ugliness. There's nothing bad. That's a whole, and we can't even conceive that in the world of the relative. That is a transcendent way of being and looking at the world or experiencing the world. It doesn't mean we stop having human emotions or having difficult challenges. We always live in this world of relative, and which is why I love this prayer, because it's always it's acknowledging always. But what Jesus was doing was saying everything he did, his teaching, his preaching, his healing, was to reveal that there's this higher place that we can live. And he's trying to draw people up into this higher kingdom, this higher queendom of pure spirit. But it includes the human, the grace and the compassion and the love and the tenderness for this human existence. So it's like when you're a parent, you have a kid who's just really upset about something. I don't think Edith and Lindsay will relate to this, but for all the rest of us, when you have kids who have really intense desires or really upset about something, and as an adult, we know that it's not nearly as bad as they think it is from their world. So we can have compassion for them, we can work with them, but we're not having the same emotional reaction because we're in this transcendent place, right? So that's what this is. It's not you're a bad person. In the old tradition, it was like, don't sin, don't evil. It's like the whole intention was because there's so much love. It's not, you're not being punished. You're just being, the idea of separation, actually we feel a little bit less than. The more we get in tune with oneness, the happier, the more joyful, the more free, the more loving, the more grace, the more we walk around like we're madly in love. So it's trying to inspire us to move to a higher place that includes compassion, but don't stay there. Keep waking up. So what are some words that people have used around this? Emma Curtis Hawkins said, "Don't let me be tempted by appearances. Don't let me believe in evil." And I think if she was writing it today, she would say, "Don't let me believe in separation. Don't let me be tempted by appearances. Don't let me believe in evil." So again, not to get seduced by the world of the relative, though it exists, but to continue to bring our love. It's like when you're in love. Don't you want to stay in love all the time? Like, isn't that the best? It's the best feeling. Why would I ever want to go back to the normal mindset? So this is like, these are practices to keep us as much as possible and more to grow in a constant state of love. And I'll just do a few from Nadia Bowles-Weber. Deliver us from religious and national exceptionalism. Deliver us from addiction and depression. Deliver us from self-loathing. Deliver us from self-righteousness. Deliver us from high fructose corn syrup. Deliver us from complacency, and deliver us from complicity. All these temptations that want to pull us away. Who are we really? We are really infinite oceanic love. And then Neil Douglas Klotz in his prayer, same idea. Don't let surface things delude us. Don't let surface things delude us. Emma used the word appearances. He called it surface things. But free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. But free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. So what kind of words would you use in that way? What do I want to be free from? What do I want to let go of? You know, when often we ask that question in visioning is, what do I need to release? Because we recognize the things that we're holding on to are the things that are the very things that are blocking us from this oceanic love that we want to experience day and night. So what's blocking us from experiencing right now this vast oceanic transcendent love that is right here in this room, is right here in the center of your hearts right now? What's blocking us from experiencing and knowing that love? And that's what we want to release. That's what this part of the prayer is about. What do I want to release to make me available to this love? What is the things that are blocking? And it's going to be individual to each and every one of us. Are you guys writing these prayers at home? Are you working on it? Or am I'm just talking to myself. I am. Okay. So then we'll end. The last part is, it's not in the, well, it's in some versions in Matthew, depending on the translation. It's not in Luke at all. It's for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. And back in the days, and I know this because I was reading some Desert Father stuff, and they ended everything they wrote with sort of, it's like a doxology or like a praise, like, and God, to God be the glory, everything is wonderful and beautiful, praise, all love, praise, whatever. So they end all their things with that. So this is just like another way of ending. So the prayer actually ends in the Gospels most of the time, in the earliest versions, with and deliver us from evil, deliver us from separation. And then you do a praise kind of thing. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. And that's it. So I'm hoping, as we're talking about living prayer, that you take some of these ideas and these thoughts, and at least, I hope so much, that you just try writing a prayer that's just a little bit different than maybe you've done before, with these ideas in it. What is the kingdom? How do I transcend but include this beautiful world? How do I live in forgiveness? How do I live knowing that all my needs are met? Just sort of looking at a prayer that you can create for yourself and then have it become your rock. Because if you come up with a prayer that you write and it's the same prayer, it is repetition, absolutely, but you're saying it every day and you're saying it with intention, with your heart open, and it is possible to say it with your heart open, day in and day out, day in and day out. It can become a living word, a living energy, a living love that is at the center of your heart that you get to carry with you wherever you go, and nothing that's happening in the external world can pull you away from this living energy that's in your heart. That's the power of having a prayer that you have written from your heart that carries you and stabilizes you. It doesn't limit you saying from all those other types of prayers. Treatment is so powerful. You can write a treatment that you say all the time. Whatever form, you can have a riff, just whatever you want to write. But just have one prayer that's for you, that's specifically for your heart, because words, as my wordsmith friends know, are so powerful, and they are alive when we bring them alive. I'll give one last example. When I was in a metaphysical Bible class, and we were going through the Bible. I might have shared this before, I don't know. We were going through these Bible verses, and I was so bored. I was literally slumped down in my chair like this, because all he was doing was, this means this means this, just very. And then I don't know what happened. So he was explaining the connection between what we were reading in the Old Testament as it was connected to the New Testament. And as he's talking, I'm looking at the words, and they suddenly become alive, and they literally are dancing on the page. They're like music notes, and they're alive, and I'm like, and the energy, and then the energy in the room. I thought it was just me. It was years later that I found out other people in the room had the same experience. At the time, it never occurred to me to ask anybody else if they had that same experience. But literally just finding these words and finding that, oh my gosh, these are alive. They're not just words. These are living energies. Words are living energy. Right? I know you know that. I know words are living energy. So play with the words. Find the prayers of your heart and speak them. That's what living prayer is. That's what living as light in the light. And it comes all from love. If it's not coming from your heart, if you're not feeling it, if when you say, that's why it took me a while to figure out the forgiveness, because I read it, I'm like, it's not resonating with my heart. Find the words that speak to your heart, that go deep and penetrating. I'm going to end with something I don't really want to end with, but I just feel like Reverend Michael, who's my mentor minister, always used to say to us, you have to, as a minister, everything is public. Everyone else, that's the only difference. We're all on the spiritual journey together, but as a minister, you have to be public. And so I'm going to share my own version of the Lord's Prayer with very clear. Mine is very pedestrian. I wasn't researching it. I'm not a scholar on Christian, whatever, all these people who've done a lot of work. I was just saying, going through the prayer and saying, these are the words, this is the kind of wording that fits me. And so don't judge me. I was realizing I'm sort of leading it as the finale, and I'm like, it was just more procrastinating, because I thought, well, I should share it, but I don't really want to share it, so I just kept putting it off. So I'm going to share it, but don't judge me. And if you don't care, I don't care. I mean, I get that the wording may not fit you, but these are words that fit me. And I say it every day because it's very simple. I just want you okay. So and then we'll just go into a very quick prayer, and Jack will start playing. Okay. So I've never said it out loud to people before, so I might get distracted. Okay. Mother, Father, God, you are heaven. Holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done in me as it is in heaven. Thank you for giving me this day in you and all my needs met. Thank you for forgiving me my weaknesses and my ignorance, as I forgive others their weaknesses and their ignorance. And thank you for leaving me not in temptation, but delivering me from separation and ignorance. For yours is the kingdom, the one power, the one presence, the one love, forever and ever. And so we just give thanks for this love that is forever with us, that has this beautiful resonance in each of our own hearts in our own unique ways, and that we get to be the curators of this beautiful world, inner life, that is revealing itself through words and through symbols. We get to create, we get to be that cause that Emma talks about, to create from a place of infinite possibilities. Each and every one of us a radiant light of pure spirit, this passionate love that all of us are, that we were born and made in the image and likeness of pure, unlimited love. And I am so grateful that we are all finding our own words, our own ways of connecting with that deepest heart space, that soul space within us, and are able to express it throughout our days and nights, to be that living word, to being that living light. And so we are that healing presence as we move out into the world, because we carry this light within us, that even as we are in that wonderful sacred withinness, the cave, the inner darkness, we find the greatest light. And it is that light that is healing the world even now. It is that light which is alive within each and every one of us. Thank you, God, for being this light as all of us in your beautiful, radiant ways. Thank you for the love that continues to compel us to be closer and closer to you with every breath that we take. In deep abiding gratitude for this love and the fulfillment of this love and the freedom of this love and the joy of this love and the peace of this love and the grace of this love and the healing power of this love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In deep abiding gratitude, we let this word be now into this wonderful law of life as we say together, and so it is.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.